Welcome back, Wolfpack Brawlers here, and this is how to use Swampert. So Swampert is a Pokemon that has some really good tanky defensive stats that we know how I feel after I see a 100 in the base hit points. So yeah, that's pretty good. Also, 90 on the defenses. This Pokemon is going to be pretty hard to knock out, and somehow Swampert still manages to find a 110 on the attack. This is a great example of a huge, bulky attacking Pokemon that just expects to go slow. Like, honestly, I wish there was maybe 20 points less in the special attack, 10 points in more defenses, or something more in the off. Like, this Pokemon could be a little more balanced, but overall, you know, 60 on the speed, pretty ideal in this situation. I just really love the way that Swampert's stats break down. Like, its typing, it's a water ground typing. Ignore the Gastrodon in the background. I already had the assets, might as well not waste time and make something else new. But overall, you know, it's the same thing that we've seen already. 4 times weakness to grass, and that's it. After that, you get 4 resistances and an immunity. You can use this Pokemon to keep your flying type safe, other water type safe. You just bring it in. Oh, now you're immune to electric. That's cool. And then you resist poison. So your fairy types are safe. Actually, poison and steel are resisted. So it's going to be really good for keeping fairy types safe. And then you can also have rock, fire. Overall, you know, the coverage is what you want. The typing is what you want. This is just amazing for a tanky kind of Pokemon that if your opponent doesn't bring grass or doesn't have too many grass threats and you deal with them accordingly, Swampert's going to have a pretty awesome time. Now, hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we can see that there are several different ways of running Swampert. The main one is just going to be Adamant Nature, so you max out the attack, go into the hit points, and then you set up Stealth Rocks and go for damage until you go down. This actually works pretty effectively because not too many things are going to threaten you, and you're also like an anti-dragon kind of Pokemon. You can come in, you set up the Stealth Rocks, depending on what your opponent is doing. You have good damage options with a Stab Waterfall, Stab Earthquake, or you just throw out the super effective Ice Punch, and that's really where it's at. So you try to go for the seriousness, and then leftovers just means you're around for a bit longer. So this is going to be good coverage. You can use this pretty much anywhere. Like if you're using it in doubles, you just put in Protect, and then you take out the Stealth Rocks, and now you have a Pokemon that can deal with a lot of different threats really well. And then that means we're going to take a look at Mega Swampert really quick. So I already did a Mega Swampert guide, but the overall gist of it is you bring your own rain, or you have a Pokemon bring rain for you, and then you just go off. That if you're bringing rain, you might want to think about bringing Power Up Punch. That way you can kind of make these weird EV investments. The idea behind these EVs is that at level 50, you're going to be able to outspeed 135 base speed Pokemon, have as much attack as possible, and still be ridiculously bulky. That when we Mega Evolve, we gain 20 points in both of our defenses. Oh, that's so good. And then that 10 boost to speed means that our Rain Dance, Swift Swim comboing is going to be absurd. So you bring a Pokemon with Drizzle, or you bring another Rain Dance Pokemon, and then it goes really good from there. After that, you just super speed. You go for a Power Punch, you have Waterfall and Earthquake, and depending on what you're doing, you know, even an Ice Punch might be better in some situations, because now you're outspeeding those really crazy threats, and then you're throwing out an Ice Punch, and now you're just knocking them out super fast. I really love the idea of Power Up Punch on Swampert because he doesn't really have too many other ways of just kind of throwing damage into it. I mean, like, if we had something like Bulk Up, we could use that instead. We're gaining defenses, but then that'd be way too strong. So with the introduction of Power Up Punch in the 6th generation, I think it's something to definitely look at because that's just going to give you that damage, and then now you're still outspeeding because of Swift Swim. You're tanky enough to be a 3-hit KO Pokemon, maybe even 4-hit KO if you're like resisting or they don't have grass or anything, and then you just go for coverage, Earthquake, Ice Punch. What else do you really need? So depending on like if you're not bringing rain, then you put in Waterfall back in, or maybe even Rock Slide. That way you have a fast chance to flinch in doubles. A lot of really cool things that Mega Swampert does. Just a lot of power, a lot of speed, a lot of damage, a lot of just tankiness. Very frustrating Pokemon to deal with overall. Next up, we have the really awesome old school Swampert that I've been running for, man, since like 4th generation or 5th generation or something. Mirror Coat Counter. Now this is Berto's Swampert in a way that he gave me one of these. He's like, dude, you need to try this out. And overall, you pretty much just want to be as tanky as possible. I put a little bit more investment into the fence, and the way you do these EVs, really easy to do. You max out the hit points, you do 2 hordes with the defense, and then you just go special defense, and then it balances out really easily. So sometimes you'll see me having like a 100 defense. It just makes it easier. Or you can use the medicine. You just max out with iron since you can only get 100 EVs for medicine for any given stat, and then you just go the rest in special defense and hit points, and it's really easy to train this way. Selfish Nature is going to give you a little bit extra defense on top of that, and it's still a really crazy thing. So then the idea is you just kind of predict, is the opponent using Mirror Coat? Is the opponent using special attacks? Use Mirror Coat. Is the opponent using physical? Use counter. After that, you kind of win, because remember, you're 3-hit, 2-hit KO Pokemon with all these hit points, that even if you're taking like 40-something% of your health, you can just turn 400 damage back onto your opponent, and most sweepers can't deal with that. But some other Swamperts can't even deal with that if they're more like defensive or offensive or speedy or something. And then, you know, you survive 2 hits, you throw out 2 KOs, and you can do a lot of serious damage this way. Also, Avalanche. Amazing for dragons, because power doubles if you're damaged by the target. You just kind of anticipate, yo, this Garchomp, this Salamence, this something's going to throw a hit at me, this Landorus. It's going to hit me, I'm going to tank it up like a boss, then I'm going to avalanche them to the face, and that's KO, and then Earthquake, because coverage against other Pokemon that are hard to predict or might be setting up. Good option against Mawile, Aegislash. That way you're just kind of keeping everything really balanced, but you're barely taking any damage, because you're just so tanky, and I love it. Now here's where things get interesting. So leftovers heals you 1/16 of your max hit points at the end of every turn, compared to Shell Bell. Now in theory, Shell Bell, after an attack, holder gains 1/8 of the damage dealt to the other Pokemon. In theory, having Shell Bell plus a counter Mirror Coat seems like it'd be the best thing ever, because you take damage, you do all of their health, and then you get 1/8 of their health back. Well, the problem is, if you're not scoring 1-hit KOs every single turn, Shell Bell is just naturally going to be less than a leftovers. Also, this is only good if your opponent has the same amount of hit points or more than you, or else it's the same amount of leftovers, because say the opponent has 500 hit points or something. It takes 2 times to KO them, and you're getting 1/8 of that back. Well, then that's really close to just getting the 2 turns from leftovers. Even if the opponent has less, then even a 2 KOs is less than the leftovers. So overall, it's really hard to make Shell Bell work, and on the tankier Pokemon, they're not getting as much health back as they would from leftovers in a lot of situations. So just keep with the leftovers, a lot more safe way to play this, or go with the Citrus Berry. Since you're only expecting to be around for 2 turns or so, you just get 1/4 of your health back, and that might turn you into a 3-4 hit KO Pokemon a lot reliably. So now you take 60% of your health, you get pushed back into a 65% range, take 60% again, 2 KOs, boom, Swampert does some really cool stuff. Rest Talk Swampert, guys, it's a thing, because I mean, really specially and physically, you only have to worry about grass. That everything else is going to be really easy to deal with. So what we do is we go Careful Nature, we max out the special defense, we max out the hit points, we use Curse until we go to sleep, and then Sleep Talk into Waterfall and stuff. Also, if you want to guarantee Curse, or at least make it towards only between Curse and Rest, you can run Dive. Here's the really interesting thing about Sleep Talk. Sleep Talk will not call itself, and it will not call moves that put you into like a 2-turn thing, so it will not call Dive. Which means if you're manipulating the set like this, you will always use Curse or Rest, so it's a 50-50 of gaining defenses, and then when you hop out, that's when you go for the Dive, and then if you're using Dive, you might want Leftovers. That way you go into Dive, you're semi-invulnerable, which means now you're getting Leftovers heal, so it's like a Protect for 1 turn, and then you do super amounts of damage because you're like +2 or +3 on Curse, and it's still good base power. I don't think Dive gets a lot of respect, but I mean, when you're playing it like this on a tanky level, becoming invulnerable and then also making it to where you're not, like, while you are giving up the ability to attack while asleep, you're making it to where you have a higher chance of just using a defensive move while asleep, and that could only be good things. And then with your max special defense and 100 base hit points, they're not really doing too much to you anyways, so this is something to consider. If you don't want to run Dive, I like Citrus Berry. It lets you curse more until you have to go to sleep. Or you can even reduce some risk with a Chesto Berry. While Sleep Talk, Rest Talk sets don't really have Chesto Berries because you have the option to attack, sometimes you do see it that way. It's like, okay, Curse. If you're forced into some kind of early rest, you don't have to have it hurt you too much, then you can go offensive, and then you don't have to play the risk of accidentally getting a rest when you don't need it, or attacking when you need to set up, and vice versa. So it does mitigate some risk while also making it to where you are taking away from the core idea of the strategy. And then Marshtomp. Eviolite Marshtomp, run it pretty much the same way as a Rest Talk, that you're just giving up Leftovers and Citrus Berry for a bit more tankiness. So if we break this down, 344 hit, like, this is a tankier Pokemon than a lot of Pokemon we've already reviewed, and it's just going to get tankier. So say we throw down that Careful Nature again, we max it out, put a little bit in defense. Eviolite is going to boost our special defense to almost 400 with a 344 defense. Now, with the way that damage calculation works, it's better to have a higher defensive stat than a hit point stat. So by boosting our defense and special defense super past it, we're going to have more effective hit points, and then that just means we're giving up the effective hit points of a Leftovers or Citrus Berry. But once we get it set up, Marshtomp is actually tankier for a little bit less damage on the Rest Talk. And then we also have Support Swampert and Delta Swampert. Like, look at all these sets. I can keep talking about all day about all the really strong things that Swampert can do. So now we have a double set that isn't rain, isn't any kind of silliness like that. It's going to be Wide Guard, Yawn, Icy Wind, and Scald. Amazing Pokemon for support. So with this, I would recommend that you just go like super tank investment like we've already seen. Do one of the things that we've already done. And then we go Wide Guard. That way, if you have a Pokemon that doesn't want to eat an Earthquake, doesn't want to eat any kind of Rock Slide, anything like that, Wide Guard's like, yo, we're going to keep you safe. Then we also have Yawn. Yawn means if Swampert isn't getting focused down, you can make a good prediction, make the opponent either have to stand and go to sleep or switch out, which gives you the advantage on the next turn. You have Icy Wind. Icy Wind's going to slow both opponents, which means your other Pokemon might get faster. And after a couple of uses, somehow Swampert might get faster. And then Scald. You land the Scald, you get the burn, and then the opponent's physical threat is shut down while you're just being so stupidly tanky. Now you can take off one of these moves and put in something like Protect. It's hard to figure out which one, because like Yawn Protect has some great synergy. Wide Guard is kind of like your Protect, because after using a move like Wide Guard, then Protect actually has a 50% chance to succeed, I feel. Oh hey, yeah, look at that. Decreases the success for Protect, Detect, Endure, King Shield, so anything like that. So yeah, you can't cross over, so actually yeah, having Wide Guard is better than Protect if you're going to be running it like that. If not, you just put in Protect instead of Wide Guard, and then you're good to go. Also, I think people would get upset with me, but I would, maybe if you want to run some kind of like bulky Assault Vest, so you take out the Protect, you take out something, and then you can put other kind of coverage here. As for what coverage, I mean, Swampert has so much. You can put in Rock Slide here. Now you have some extra threat. You can put Facade. Facade makes it to where if they burn you, if they try to do something to get you off the field, oh hey, they open up with a Toxic Stall Pokemon, now your Facade's really strong, or they burn you, and something like that. Actually, we put Power Punch on the Assault Vest set, that's right, and maybe instead of running Ice Punch in general, we can just always have Avalanche. We just expect it that we're going to be slower in a lot of situations. We're most likely going to be getting focused or attacked or something, then we throw out the Avalanche. If it isn't, like look, we look at the base power of Ice Punch, that's 75, so I mean, even if they don't attack you, you still have a very high damage, super effective threat, and now with this, you pretty much try to set up a Power Punch and then go for those KOs while being stupidly tanky. You can pretty much just come in on a lot of opponents like special attackers, so maybe running some defense, maybe a little bit of attack investment, and then they just don't do anything to you. So you can also be some kind of wall and stall breaker that if they're not doing serious amounts of damage, you get to set up Power Punches, trade with them, and then cool things happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's how you use the very diverse and very powerful Pokemon Swampert. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.